I've been working on Love, Death, and Dice for a good while. I've painted big models, silly models, and even a few dioramas. I think it's time to tackle something more challenging. A series. I want to paint up every model in the Warhammer Cursed City board game. Hopefully quickly. Welcome, Traveler. My name is Blake Rea, and this is Love, Death, and Dice. I initially didn't intend to dive deeper than the Start Collecting box for Soulblight Gravelords, but like many others, I was enchanted by the horrific sculpts of the Cursed City box. Unlike, say, Space Marines, where every infantry and vehicle has roughly the same scheme, the Restless Undead offer a breadth of painting options and a freedom to make each unit feel unique. The only downside is I have to paint more vampires than any other monster, and ew. I've given vampires a bad rap in previous episodes, bony boy supremacy and all. But I do like vampires, specifically when their monstrous and bestial form is front and center. Think Pearl from American Vampire, or any vampire from that series. That's what drew me to Cursed City. Sure, there are some regal, even posh vampires to see, but most of the bloodsuckers in this box dance on the wilder side of undeath. I plan on painting the whole faction in this series, and to start, I am painting my favorite miniature in the whole box, the Vargskyr. Besides having a challengingly copyrightable name, the sculpt is incredible. Sinewy wings, matted fur, gnarled claws, and a leathery face of wrinkled and scarred skin. It's rad, and I think we can paint it up rather quickly. Though the model is rather straightforward to put together, there are a couple seams in the muscles you'll need to fill. I suggest sprue glue and some Tamiya thin to shape it. Dab some goo on the exposed seams, and then use the Tamiya thin and its brush to sculpt the contours of the muscles. Initially, I wanted to paint this like the official box art, which is milky skin with raw reddish elements and purple hands. Notice how I said initially, a sign of things to come. Spray cans are wonderful for batch painting, though if you're not careful and the paint isn't at the perfect temperature, it can leave behind this kind of gritty texture that can be picked up on macro lenses. So, for the smoothest effect, I will be priming white with my airbrush. I've followed this prime with an all-over airbrush of dark gray blue. Then, using thinned down royal purple, I hit the hands, feet, wings, and face. My idea here is to create an underpainting that will affect all of the layers above it and create a more interesting shadowy part when you look at the underside of the model. This was very much inspired by Craftworld Studio and their paint jobs. I want to see if I can pull it off in my own work. Next, I airbrushed red gray from above, keeping it more opaque on the muscles and pieces of thicker flesh. With the underpainting we did, this gives the appearance of a bloodless, meaty body. And now that the flesh is painted, my mind blanked. I kinda don't know I didn't think past this point. In my few years of painting, I've encountered walls of knowledge where I'm unsure of the next step. The flesh looks good, but how does the fur and other details blend into it? I just don't know. So I start throwing things at the wall to see what happens. This is where accidental awesome discoveries are made, or when I muck up a model. Blacking out the details might be a good idea. Using Black Templar contrast paint, I hit all the fur elements, the nails, and the teeth. The nails look fine, however, this created a dramatic change in color between the skin and fur, making them feel too separate from one another. Thinking that I could eventually fix it, I went on to shade the hands, feet, and face with purple contrast, trying to blend it with a sponge. Oh no. I then added some very strong ink to the membrane sections, which was a very bad idea. In my haste, I tried wiping this away, and I just basically scratched the paint underneath and ruined the model. Not exactly good. A disastrous, one might say. So I'm gonna start again and get this model stripped. While that soaks, I'm gonna eat some nice greasy food and ponder. While it sucks to ruin a model, that's where lessons are learned and growth is made as a painter. You get to ask really important questions like, Where did it go wrong? What steps could have been done better? And what practice do you need to hone in on? Firstly, I need to work on my transitions when it comes to organic elements, such as the patches of fur being one solid color and having no transition into the skin, which looks really unnatural. The other thing I realized is that I know very little about underpainting or glazing or using really thin top layers over existing paint. I'm just not there yet. But that doesn't mean I won't be eventually. It just takes a lot of failure and a lot of retrying. I'm sure committing to a whole box of minis that need to be painted uniquely will help with that. After a few hours of stripping the model, let's start again. While I primed the model white again, I got thinking, if I finished my last scheme, it would look like most of the other Vargskyr paint jobs I've seen. Why not use this opportunity to go into a completely different direction? Something more earthy and dark like my skeletons. After my primer dried, I covered the whole model in black-brown to create my initial shadows. From there, I zenithal light umber on all the upward-facing skin and hair, especially the hair patches, kind of working on that transition from shadowy skin to lightened hair. Within those same pools of light umber, I airbrushed drab brown, giving special attention to the hands, feet, membrane sections, and face. This is my initial mid-tone, and now we need to create a highlight for it. To create this highlight color, I mixed pale yellow into the drab brown and focused on the volumes on the top half of the body. This is our final highlight of skin, so don't go too overboard and cover the transitions beneath. Keep those pools of color incredibly small. Instead of pure black, this time around I'm painting the nails and teeth black-brown. So rarely is pure black or pure white a good idea. Every material interacts with lighting and the colors it carries, so when it doesn't, it can look uncanny, just like it did on my previous model. Learning from my last scheme, my transition between fur and skin needs to be more gradual. I greatly thinned down dark umber and hit all of the fur, feathering it as it got to the skin to build up that gradation. It's definitely darker than the skin areas, but the monochromatic nature gives it a cohesiveness that it did not have before. With the transition secure, I want to add some warmth and lightness to the fur. So, using warm brown, I stippled the center of each of the fur patches and the top tufts of the tail and back hair. Though I am happy with what this brought, I do wish I had done one more color between this and the dark umber to capture the fur details at the edges. Like most things, you can't go wrong with a triad, a shadow, a midtone, and a highlight. I only did a shadow and a highlight. Let's take a break from the fur and go back to the bone elements. This will be the only fine brushwork we're doing, so rejoice. To highlight the teeth and nails, I gave them a simple edge highlight of dark, warm gray. The goal is to give them the appearance of obsidian black while adding that touch of coolness we talked about. Taking a step back to look everything over, this is a lot of brown. Some color variety would be good, and green is harmonious with brown. It's nature, baby. For the stones at their feet, I brushed everything with black-green. This will be the initial start of moss buildup. Using the same black-green, I thinned it down heavily to a wash consistency and then applied it to the feet. With a clean, wet brush, I feathered it up the shins and dialed it back to taste. I figure this monster is sprinting through the fresh grass between kills and staining its feet. To finish off the stones, I gave them a dry brush of dark neutral gray, leaving the moss buildup on all of the crevices. Because I'm using a darker gray rather than a brighter one, it won't distract from the lightness of the feet or the body above. It's here that I took a quick break to varnish my model in preparation for our grime phase. Sloths, they're fun, they have silly faces, and move so slowly that moss grows in their fur. I can't imagine this guy moves very slowly, but I like the idea of mossy fur. Using winter streaking grime, which has a greenish-brown tint, I carefully lined the border of each patch of fur. I also applied this to the face and membrane areas. In fact, I did a couple extra coats on the membrane areas to really sell the color difference and interest in those areas. Using white spirits and a brush, I feathered these areas into the skin. The The result is a strong green on the base of the fur and a subtle transition into the surrounding light and dark browns. Once that dries, I then seal it all in with another thin layer of matte varnish. This is a very brown model, but there's enough color variance that interest is held and shape can be defined. I base this guy in the same way as my Skellies. Geek Gaming Scenic Glue all over the base, and then a quick dip in the Base Ready Scrublands mix. Once all that dries, I then hit it with Scenic Sealant, giving special attention to the bushes. Those little guys love to fall off if lightly glued. Paint the rim black, and the hunt can begin. Though it started off pretty rocky and took a couple attempts, I think my Vargskyr turned out pretty damn cool. And I'll be honest, I'm warming up to the vampires. They're cool, the sculpts are cool. Until next time, subscribe and happy hunting.
Farewell and adieu to you ladies of Spain, for we've received orders to sail for old England, but we hope in a short time to see you